Like seriously, just go check out this series. I beg you. Hello! Happy Manga Monday, everyone! As you might have noticed if you watched any of my other videos, today the setup is different than usual. I have finally unloaded the bed from this room and I plan to put some more bookshelves where it was, but they're not up yet. When I do get them up though, that'll be a new room tour for you all. I hope you enjoy. But yes, as of now, I'm using this temporary chair situation. I want to actually buy like a nice kind of plush, more comfortable chair. For now, this is what you get. And I've realized if I move, you're gonna be in for a fun treat of noise, cacophony of noise. So I'm gonna try really hard not to move. But just so you know, if you hear that, that's because I moved. Not the best chair, but anyway, we're gonna make it work. And today I'm going to be talking about Alice in Borderland. I'm going to be talking about both the manga, which I finished. It's complete at 9 of these lovely little omnibuses, or if you want to do the math, 18 single volumes. But in English, over here in the States anyway, they are published like these, so that's why I'm saying it's complete at 9 volumes. Anyway, so I finished reading the manga. Amazing, I loved it, perfection. But I also want to talk about the live action Alice in Borderland, the Japanese drama of the same name, obviously an adaptation from the manga itself, and I absolutely loved it. I got into it actually first, and there are actually some, I don't want to say major changes, because in all honesty, the live action was pretty faithful to the original work, having now read it. But they did make some changes. In the case of most, I actually preferred the live action changes that were made to the manga. So that's why I kind of wanted to talk about it. And obviously that means there'll be spoilers, but I will let you know when that happens and what the spoilers will be covering. And yeah, so you can make the decision of when to stop watching if you haven't read or watched Alice in Borderland and you don't know the story yet. Like I said, they're both the same, like pretty much beginning to end. They follow the same trajectory, same plot beats for the most part. So if you've read or watched one of them, you'll know what's going on. So yeah, but to start it off, we have my spoiler-free review, and I just really want to convince some of you all that you should read this or watch it. Either one, honestly. Like, they're both really, really good. And if you like survival game type stories, in the vein of like battle royales, or you know, those other type of things where you have a bunch of people and we see who, you know, gets weeded out in a very cruel, specific way anyway. You know what I'm saying, right? They lose their heads, you know. But yeah, if you don't mind some violence and some of that, then why haven't you already picked up Alice in Borderland? And even if you're not like the biggest like fan of, you know, the gore and the violence, because I get it, sometimes it can be a little extra, a little like, you know, gore and violence for the sake of gore and violence, right? But this one, I think that the characters' deaths are not exploitative. It's not like super graphic or you know, intense. In my humble opinion, I think the deaths work really well to illustrate the gravity of the situation that they are facing. You know, it's part of this world that they are now in when they go to Borderland. And obviously I picked it up because I like survival game stories. I just find the psychology of it all fascinating. Call me sick and twisted. I know I am. But yeah. So with that, let me tell you the summary if you've no knowledge of Alice in Borderland at all. So this is according to the back of the book. 18-year-old Ryohei Arisu is sick of his life. School sucks, his love life is a joke, and his future feels like impending doom. As he struggles to exist in a world that can't be bothered with him, Ryohei feels like everything would be better if he were somewhere, anywhere else. When a strange fireworks show transports him and his friends to a parallel world, Ryohei thinks all his wishes have come true. But this new world isn't an empty paradise. It's a vicious game. And the only way to survive is to play. The first game starts with a bang, but Ryohei manages to beat the clock and save his friends. It's a short-lived victory, however, as they discover that winning only earns them a few days grace period. If they want to get home, they're going to have to start playing a lot harder. So yeah, obviously it is rated M for mature. There is death, there is, violence. There are characters that are twisted and sick. There are characters that are good-hearted but put into horrible situations. There are, weak and strong characters, female and male characters that have their attributes that they're good at as you get introduced to like more of the, I guess, main cast, if you will, of characters. And what I specifically love is that it doesn't go into it in the back, but this isn't really spoilers. The games that they are forced to play. If they win the game, they obviously live, first of all, and then they get their visas extended. So their visas is how long they have before they have to play another game. And you choose the game randomly, but there's 4 different card suits. So if you've ever played cards, there's hearts, clubs, spades, and diamonds. And each one has a different attribute for like the vibe of the game. I believe hearts is psychological. One of them's smarts, like I forget which one. I'll just put them here. But yeah, each suit, so each game you pick has a different intensity level. So if you have like the 2 of diamonds, it's not as intense as say the 9 of diamonds. And so that weighs on how hard the game that they're playing is. And of course, it is a life or death game. If you do not play the game and your visa runs out, you are a laser beam shoots and ends you instantly. And if you play the game and you lose the game or you die within the game, obviously game over, right? So yeah, some games are cooperative, you need others' help to win. Sometimes you are pitted against everyone else in the game. So it's very like, when they're just tossed in there in the very beginning, they don't even know that the suits have different types of games and all that, which leads to craziness and messiness. And yeah, it is intense, but I like it because it is very much showing off different character skill sets through these different games. And we have like the more athletic ones or the more smart calculating ones. And yeah, I love that aspect of it. And then of course we have to touch on the fact that it is Alice in Borderland. It's obviously a play on Alice in Wonderland, the classic novel by Lewis Carroll, which if you somehow know nothing about Alice in Wonderland, that's okay really, because I do not think you need to have any knowledge of the original story that it's drawing from in pieces, but mostly I would say in particular a couple situations, but mostly names. Like we have our main character Arisu. The way they say it, the actual way to say it, sounds a lot more like Alice. So he's your titular protagonist, obviously. And then you meet characters like Usagi, who is, a parallel to the White Rabbit from Alice in Wonderland. And then there's Chise, who you could clearly tell is supposed to be the Cheshire Cat. And it's just interesting to find the characters inspiration from the original novel and some of the kind of story beats that feel vaguely familiar. And that's all I'd say. You really don't have to have any prior knowledge of Alice in Wonderland to enjoy this one. But for me personally, as someone who loves Alice in Wonderland, I have to say it was fun to have that added level to this series. It was just like an added bonus for me as a fan of Alice in Wonderland. And like I've said previously, I think hands down, this has got to be one of my favorite survival game stories. It is actually in my top 10 manga in general. I just really enjoyed it. And obviously I'm a sucker for a survival game story, so one that I feel is done in a really solid way is going to be given major kudos from me because I just appreciate it. I appreciate a well thought out story. I appreciate serious stakes in my survival games, and I appreciate multi-dimensional characters. Like, this series really gave us some gripping characters. It shows you the weakness of people, the strengths of people. It just really like delves into that psychological you know, of characters who are forced to participate in these games that are sometimes kill or be killed, that are sometimes making you, forcing you to either directly or indirectly be the cause of someone else losing their lives. And I just think the way that characters handle this, you know, this situation they're all in, they all react and deal with it quite differently. And I think it's really interesting to see the bonds formed and the characters that go off the deep end and just backgrounds and reasons for the choices that they make throughout. And I love that psychological aspect to it, the like deeper thing that, you know, you do tend to get in survival stories, which is why I think I like them so much. It's not all just the senseless killing, okay? So yeah, it has the nuanced and multi-dimensional characters. It also has obviously the captivating death games all the way through that, you know, keep the action going continuously, and also providing a sprinkling of psychological trauma throughout as well. And like I said, overall it's really solid, and that's because I feel that personally the ending for me is very satisfying. This one doesn't give you an out. It doesn't give you an escape. The stakes are real. The stakes are real in this one. And I like that levity. That's a big win for me in my book, for just sticking the landing. And I'll talk more about the ending obviously in my spoilery review section. So I'm not gonna go in any further into it, but just my final like nudge for any of you who haven't read or watched the series yet, before you click away, before I get into the spoilers, is that I highly recommend it. I endorse this. I really do think it has just a little bit of everything. Yeah, it just has it all. And it's also by the mangaka of Zom 100. So if you want a more serious survival story than Zom 100, which is more comedic, but you liked the storytelling and the way he like writes characters and stuff, which I really enjoy, I would never in a million years guess, because this is 10,000 times darker tone-wise. It's a very different vibe. It's a very different type of story, while being actually in a very similar genre of like zombies or survival game stories, life and death situations. I think if you don't pick it up after that, then you're seriously missing out. So yeah, all that to say, Alice in Borderland is super exciting, action-packed series. You should go check it out. You should go check it out right now. And that's it. That's my closing statement. And I'll bid those of you adieu who just jumped on here to get the gist and the summary and my overall feelings of Alice in Borderland, and I hope you'll come back and watch the rest after you finished the series. But yeah, for now it is time that we get into the spoilers, specifically the first half spoilers. So we're going to be talking about season 1 of Alice in Borderland, the live action Japanese drama, and volumes like 1, 2, about volume 5 of the manga series. And yeah, so let's get into the first half spoilers for Alice in Borderland. So I have to say, between the live action and the manga for the first half, I would definitely give it to the manga. Although seeing the death games, you know, in real time, I think is more exciting and thrilling. I feel that the beginning is very important. It really is more in Arisu's head, and we need that inner dialogue and the kind of flashbacks that manga and really just written word in general can more easily do than in anime and live action, because you're trying to have a flow in your story, and if you keep cutting away to their inner dialogue and to flashbacks, it takes away from that flow. But it's very important to get especially the bonding moments between Arisu and his two friends, Karube and Shota, because their bond, their like found family vibe, is very important. Yeah, one of the very first huge things that happen is that Karube and Shota die in a survival game. It is really brutal, really sad, but it's not as sad in the live action to me personally, because I didn't feel like I connected with their bond as much as when I read the manga. And then their death hit me a lot harder, even though I knew it was coming because I'd watched the live action first. And this could easily be a me problem, but they die in the 3rd episode of the live action or in the 3rd volume of the manga. When you have 3 volumes of manga, at least I felt that I got a lot more of Arisu's thoughts, and those thoughts about his friends, and how I could really feel these friends were all he had in the world, and I can feel the impact of their passing and the sacrifice they made. So I really felt for Arisu in the manga, versus the live action. It pissed me off and I almost stopped watching it. I was like, why would you choose to do this in the 3rd episode when I haven't felt that connection with them? And like, if you had chosen to do it like 5 episodes in and I'd seen even more, like, to me it just didn't feel like I had enough time to emotionally connect to these characters and care about their death as much as I could have if they had just held off a little. And I was like just disappointed. I was like, oh, that was a stupid choice. But I see that it works. It works in the manga. I just don't, either the way they got into it or whatever. And I do think they try. They do try. They show us their relationship in the present. I think they give us a flashback or two about, you know, their relationship. I just think that for me, the manga did it better. I mean, obviously, like, it was sad. It made me feel things, even the live action. But it was just more like I felt like they missed the opportunity if they had just waited and made us really connect with these characters and then killed them off. But I mean, overall, I don't think that it's done poorly or anything, and it obviously leaves you feeling like, wow, okay, no one is safe in Borderland. Like, there are real stakes, there are real consequences. And I definitely feel that in the first half of the manga and in the beginning of the second half of the manga as well. However, for me, the last act has a bit less of a high stakes feeling, and I'm going to get into that because we're going to talk about the second half now. So yes, I gave it to the manga in the first half, but in the second season of Alice in Borderland and in the second half of the manga, like volumes 5 to volumes 9, I feel I like the changes made by the live action more than the manga. This is where I might get some people that disagree with me, and that is completely okay. But let me know if you feel strongly one way or the other, if you've read or watched. And I could see where like reading the manga first might have made me more annoyed with the changes they made. But because usually I am a stickler for just do it how the book did it, dummies. But every once in a while, showrunners can make improvements in a story, and I think that's really great when they can, you know, improve upon the source material instead of just diverting from it for purely no reason at all. That doesn't add anything to the story, in my opinion anyway. A lot of novel to movie adaptations or novel to TV show adaptations, it just feels like that. And yeah, I think manga in general, when they have an anime adaptation, it is most likely beat for beat, following along with the story. But I liked seeing how they changed certain things in the live action. And obviously, they probably changed a few things here and there because the game was harder to set up. So they made the like game a little bit more simplistic, or, you know, what have you. But they still have really great, huge set pieces in this one. And it's, yeah, like the games that are big, high stakes games that matter, they're given a lot of attention and a lot of care. And I just really appreciate that. And especially when they're exploring the city, that's super awesome to see. And obviously, like, they made their budget work. Like they put in the effort for this budget, because I think it's really well done personally. But yeah, let's break down the major changes that they made between Alice in Borderland, the manga, and Japanese drama live action. First and foremost, which I could have mentioned in the first part, because you see him appear early on in, I think it's like the 4th or 5th omnibus, but it just wasn't worth mentioning. And that is the character of Dodo. And I don't give a crap about Dodo. Sorry. Take him or leave him kind of character. He does have growth. He does have like character development, and he plays an integral part towards the end of the series. However, what the live action did by removing him and simply choosing just to enhance the part of Heya, I know I'm butchering her name. Yeah, but Heya, I like it more. I like the dynamic between her and Aguni more than Aguni and Dodo, which you get in the book versus the live action. And while the manga tries to, you know, make Dodo and Aguni's relationship gravity and a significance, especially for Aguni, who is pretty like, just, I want to end my life through this game. He's very down and out, and yeah. And so in the manga, Dodo is the one who kind of gives him a little bit more of a purpose and reason for continuing on and not giving up. And in the live action, that role belongs more to Heya. And I just like their dynamic more. It works for me more. I also like seeing Heya more. I think she's a great and interesting and fun and witty and strong character. I mean, she in the very first game like gets very seriously injured in her leg and like literally sleeps with a man just so he will amputate her leg so she can live. Like, I can't even like wrap my mind around the sacrifice of like sacrificing your body to this disgusting, gross creature of a man who like, disgusting. But like you're doing this all to live at the cost of your leg too. Like, you know, it's 2 levels. It's like horribly like, but she died without it. So she adjusts while in Borderland, while playing these death-defying games, to being paraplegic now. And she's just a straight up badass. So like, excuse me, of course I want more of her in my series. And the manga just has her in it for sure. And she helps them for sure. But the live action, she is given way more opportunity to shine as she should. She is a strong female warrior, and I love her for it. She's one of my top favorite characters. And Another major change that I really, really preferred in the live action is with the battle against the King of Clubs. So the King of Clubs has made pretty much all of Alice in Borderland a game field, and he can just sneak up on him and boom, 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 take him out. And he is a constant threat because there is not an arena you go in. He's anywhere and he is everywhere, and he is tracking them down and systematically wiping them all out. And even if you hide in the woods, he can still find you. Like he obviously has some help in scouting them out and stuff, and he's obviously also a proficient killer. So he's a major threat in the final acts of this series, but in the manga, his end felt almost too quick, and it didn't give me those same stakes that the live action did. So in the manga, Dodo, Aguni, and Haya take him out. That's it. They take him out. I mean, it's clearly shown before they take him out, the struggle to take him out, and what an efficient killer he is and a badass. I mean, they give him his props. He is as scary and intense as he is in the live action. But the major difference in the live action is they needed way more help to take him down in the live action, and it caused serious injuries to more of our fave characters that we had become invested in. He's hurt Aguni pretty bad, which happens in the manga, but he's also hurt Haya, Anna, which I haven't talked about yet, but I also love Anna. She's more of a smarty girl and was a medical examiner before coming to Borderland. And Kuna, which I super love, again, probably butchering her name pronunciations, sorry, but Kuna is great. She is actually a trans character who was born and raised as like the only child of a dojo. So Kuna has to go against her parents, and it's a big deal. And yeah, I mean, I think she's, again, really strong. She's physically badass because she did train so long as like a student of her father's dojo. And she's still got mad skills, which I love. But she's also really smart, clever, and just all around really, like, I think a really capable character and badass woman, and we love it. I love the badass women. Usagi is also a badass woman, and just in my personal opinion, I like the other girls a little bit more than I like Usagi, but that's okay. I like Usagi. And yeah, but Kuna and Anna also get injured trying to stop the King of Clubs. So you're really nervous. Like, you are really nervous going into the actual final battle, the final survival game. Arisu and Usagi are the ones to go into the final game. Not because, like in the manga, they play some kind of game to decide who's gonna go in, and the others just like cheer him on, but basically because like they're all too fucking injured to help him. Like they are more wounded, and there's more severity and a seriousness of quickly winning this last game, where I just don't feel like the stakes were as high in the manga. I mean, they were still there, like, obviously, especially as the Queen of Hearts obviously parallels to the Queen of Hearts in Alice in Wonderland. But as she plays her psychological mind games with Arisu. For the manga, it's still like, as it goes on, like, it's important that he hurry up and just, you know, get the heck out of here. But for the live action, the stakes are even higher because they are literally on death's door. Like, what happens? Like, if we win the game, hopefully they'll be saved. And yeah, so to me personally, I felt like this changes that they made, which weren't huge, they weren't drastic, they still followed the same story beats, but that they just made the second season for me stronger overall than the manga's second half did. But I still love them. I still enjoyed them both. I still, you know, rooting for the characters, and yeah, I just had a good time with both of them. But yeah, that leads us to talking about the end and what I thought of the end. So Arisu beats the Queen of Hearts. They are given a choice, and that choice is remain in Borderland, become a game master, kind of, essentially. They might have called it a different thing, but they are the face cards. You got Jack, king, queen for each of the cards. So those were the like final bosses of Alice in Borderland. And so you can stay and you can remain playing the games, but being on the other side trying to win against people that arrive in Borderland, or you can choose to leave Borderland. What happens when you choose to leave Borderland? They hope it will send them back home, but they have no real way of knowing that for sure. But I'd say like 90% of them choose to leave Borderland. We do see some characters that we have met along the way who choose to stay in both situations, in both cases. But most of the characters we were introduced to, and obviously like our favorite main characters and stuff, like they choose to leave Borderland. They do not accept the offer. And so, yes, in the end, they are sent home. But the truth is finally revealed that what they saw in the sky was not fireworks. It was in fact a meteorite hitting down, and that everyone who died in Borderland died. They did not survive the meteorite impact. Whoever lived and said they wanted to leave Borderland, they came back. Heavily injured, mind you, most of them on death's door. But they woke up in the hospital and they survived this tragedy, this natural disaster, and which makes you kind of go, oh, first of all, that means there was another tragedy, another mass disaster, which sent all the previous suit players, the guys behind the games that they had just gone up against, to Borderland the last time, which makes sense. There are sadly natural disasters or mass casualty situations that happen around the world. And so it makes sense that they keep kind of being brought to Borderland and then keep facing off against each other, essentially, if they choose to stay in Borderland because they did not like the world as it was. They want the power here, the control, or they just simply do not feel they belong in the world, or they don't trust that they will go home if they leave. You know, there's always that. But there's many reasons for why they chose to stay. And then there's going to be the ones that choose to leave. And so that, for me, shows that Borderland is the in-between. It's not like it was trying that hard with its name. Like, it is the border between life and death. It is limbo, essentially. And instead of being given a choice to go to heaven or hell, you're given the choice to stay here or return to your lives on earth and try and make the best of it. And I really like that they don't know for sure. They just hope that they get to go home. And I like that they choose to go home, because a lot of them through the course, we've seen how not great their life situations, their home situations, their lives on earth were. But through the course of these games, they've realized what it means to be alive, and that they can still hopefully have the time to make changes in their lives and be better people, or try to make their lives better, and whichever the cases may be. But I love that is a choice that they get to make. I love, seeing how they've changed and developed through the course of Borderland to make that choice to hopefully go home and put their faith in that reasoning that they get to go home. And I love that they don't really have any memory of Alice in Borderland, but they do feel a connection or an affinity towards certain characters that they linked up to in Borderland. And obviously you could say the trauma bonding. I mean, because essentially you see this other person who's also gone through something that you just went through. They're injured like you. It makes sense. Naturally, they're in a hospital. They have little to do but talk to the other people that were impacted and hurt from this natural disaster. So it makes sense, but then you also know why they kind of have this affinity, or they go towards and connect towards one character in specific, because they had a bond or a friendship, or they were close in Borderland. So yeah, it adds that level of you can totally see both ways to it, but even though they don't remember, and they might feel something from that experience in the borderland, in limbo, in that space between life and death. And the ones that died in the games are the ones that died. They are the casualties of this meteorite hitting, and they do still have to deal with their passing. Like, Arisu still has to deal with his friends. They're not going to come back just because he won the game, just because he left Borderland. They didn't get that chance. So it's still really impactful. It's still really sad, but in this like really hopeful way of like moving forward in life and having this second chance at life, and having put in all that effort in Borderland to get that we know that they did that, means so much more. To see them back in the real world and, you know, able to make those changes and choices in their life. And yeah, I love the hopefulness of it. We do see afterward that they are going to hike together, which is something Usagi used to do with her father. And yeah, I think it's overall, both endings, they are virtually the same, and they make for a good, solid conclusion, in my opinion. So I thoroughly enjoyed both of them. And if for some reason you watched all of this without reading or watching the series at all, I still think you should go experience it, because yeah, it's a really good one. It's a really good story. So yeah, that was the overview of Alice in Borderland. Probably my favorite survival game story, like my #1 survival game story right now. But yeah, I'd love to hear from you all. Please, if you've watched this far, let me know below which, you know, whether you saw the live action, the anime, or you read the manga. And let me know what your thoughts were. I'm so curious. I made this video just so I could talk about it, because I feel like I have nobody that I know that's read or watched it that I can talk to about it. And I just really want to talk about it because it's so interesting and good. But yeah, I didn't want to make this video too long, so I just did my main thoughts on it. And if you've already checked out the series, that probably means that you also like survival battle royale, survival game type stories. So feel free to recommend me some below, because you know I'm a sucker for the battle royales and the survival games. And yeah, we'll see if we can find one that beats Alice in Borderland, that dethrones the reigning champ right now. The challenge has been issued for you all. So comment below one you think is better than Alice in Borderland. So yeah, with that, I plan to do my webtoon review of some first volume webtoons I've been reading lately next Monday. So I hope you will subscribe if you haven't yet, and turn on notifications so you never miss one of my Manga Monday or any extra videos I do in between. And if you liked the video, if you liked Alice in Borderland, please do give this video a thumbs up. You're the best, and I will see you next time. Bye!